Hello, welcome to What the Flick. Looking Season 1, Episode 5, Looking for the Future. Alonso Duralde joining me today from BuzzFeed.com is Adam B. Very. And this is my favorite episode so far.
This episode was unreal. I've been a fan of the show since the beginning. I know some people have found it boring or slow, and I actually appreciated it for the time it was taking for us to get to know these characters. But this episode is something special. It was just beautiful.
I think that if you were tuning into the show and wanting it to be like Weekend, this is the episode where that really pays off.
Well, because it's written and directed by the writer and director of Weekend.
So. But structurally, like the plot gets put on a side burner. The other characters get put aside. It is a two-hander, as they call it, and it is nothing but Patrick and Frankie just getting to know each other for the day, basically.
Yes.
And we're getting to know them too, which is, I think a lot of people were they really thought the show was kind of taking its time and getting to establish these characters and who are they and why should we care. And I feel like, okay, this episode is for you. This is, it's all laying it all out. And to the cranky people that were like, oh, they live in San Francisco where there's no HIV. That came up too.
Yes, well, and there was real lasting sex on the episode that was incredibly hot
and super borderline. Like I'm sure HBO standards and practices was frame by framing it, because they were right on the edge of the action. The camera was.
Well, and I thought it was just so honest about it, though.
Sure,
the way that they related to each other and the way that they talked about it
played organically for sure.
Completely. There's just so many different things to talk about with this episode. I think. I think the character of Richie is the most interesting character on the show, and has been since the first episode, and allowing us to really get to know him and where he's coming from and what his attitudes are was really wonderful in sort of comparison to Augustin, who is my least favorite thing about the show.
So far, he is. I'm hoping they're going to pull something out of the bag for him that's going to be.
Well, not to get too ahead of things, but the promo for next week makes me where Augustin says some nasty thing. He thinks he's like, you're slumming it and it ain't pretty.
Yeah.
I think that they're making him into like a frenemy. Like, I think that he's he's maybe like an antagonist.
Well, I think maybe what's happening is that he's so dissatisfied with his own life that he's going to be lashing out. But enough about Augustin.
Yeah,
he's not even on this.
So I think Mark Blankenship at previously on has just wrote about this, where the attitude that Richie has about bottoming is something that I've never seen really discussed honestly on television before. And the fact that he's like, I think, that those categories are things that are just only for websites.
Right.
And really you should just be organic with the person you're with and see how that works. But then a lot of gay men have shame about bottoming.
Totally. No, there is such a weird gay mentality about it, and I think part of it is the idea that somehow if you're bottoming, then that means that you are the weaker one, or you're the whatever. But at the same time, it is that idea of people already think of me as somebody who has anal sex, and I don't want, in addition to that, to have them think of me as a guy who gets fucked,
Right.
Which ties the whole like misogyny and God knows what else.
Misogyny and internalized homophobia and all of those watchwords. But I think that the way that it manifested itself as drama in sort of pushing the Patrick's boundaries, I thought was really interesting, and it really sort of opened, no pun intended, opened Patrick up as a character.
Yeah, no, I think we see a lot of Patrick's walls coming down in this episode, which is we were due for,
Exactly.
and there were implications that, by his relationship with his mother, his other things, that he's always sort of, that he's one of those best little boy in the world type gays, and so I really liked the way that this new, partner is sort of able to kind of work his way around and get him to open up to talk about things and to reveal things about himself and to open his mind to ideas that he might have been scared of in the past.
And I think, for people that have been sort of saying this is a show about gay men, but it's not necessarily universal. I think that this episode is sort of a bit of a line in the sand about that, because it was very much about a very specific experience that gay men have about talking about HIV, talking about sex, very specific parts of what the gay sex experience is like.
The negotiation.
Yeah, and I think that if you are the kind of person who can't somehow figure out a way to plug into that if you're not a gay man, then you should
extrapolate.
Yeah, then you really need to examine your own sense of open-mindedness, because gay people have been doing that in reverse for straight stuff for forever.
True. Yeah. We've had to sort of translate it to our own experience. So yeah, your turn. Straight folks, deal with it. Yeah, no, I really, and it just for a show that's only 5 episodes old, to do this kind of episode where, okay, we're not going to talk about the flirtation with the boss or Dom's restaurant or the call boy or like any of the things that we've been sort of setting up. It's just going to be 2 people talking for half an hour. Luxuriate in this, and they pull it off. It retroactively shows you how strong this show has been up to this point, that it can support that.
Sustain it. Well, I think Andrew Haigh really relied upon San Francisco and really used San Francisco as a location in a way that also I feel like very few television shows actually are of their city. Girls is a good way of, Girls, especially I gather, I don't really watch Girls, but I feel like this week's episode also did this, where it used its location very specifically. And there are just so many great shots of San Francisco in this episode, so beautiful. When they get to that view of the bay, and it's just so beautiful. But I also want to ask, do you think that there will be T-shirts that say "I'm a Ross" and "I'm a Rachel"?
Oh, totally. And I would imagine that BuzzFeed is making them. But yeah, no, I can totally see that becoming jargon for out of this episode for sure.
What does it mean if you're a Chandler though? What does that mean?
I'm a Marcel, so I don't really know. So yeah, so if you have given up on this show, or people who tuned out early, you do not get to quit looking until you watched episode 5. That's new rule.
There's one caveat about that episode that I just wanted to sort of air. As much as I think that Richie is the most interesting character on the show so far, it's called Looking, and it's about people striving about the pursuit. So if they couple up sort of permanently the same way that Hannah and Adam have on Girls. Adam Driver, I don't actually know the guy's
character. I think actually Adam's the character too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Then I think that the show's doing itself a disservice, because I think there's still a lot left to explore in what Patrick's character, like his outlook on relationships, and I just hope that they don't sort of immediately bond them to each other. And
Patrick is too much of a mess to make this work. So I am confident that they will find a way to fuck it up.
He almost fucked it up with the whole egg Senora thing. Like he really was so aggressively curious in a very kind of white privileged way. And didn't, almost too late, didn't pick up on the sort of hints that Richie was
shut up now.
Shut up now. Like Richie probably had to say, let's stop talking about this. Like he had to be that direct. That hopefully, I don't want, I'm conflicted because I don't want Richie to go away because I think he's so interesting, but I don't want them to become a permanent couple because I think that would be limiting for the show.
I think that Richie will be sort of the Mr. Big that he kind of gravitates to and away from and to and away from over the course of the show.
That'd be really interesting.
And I think, because obviously they're giving us Russell Tovey as a possible thing, I think that Richie's going to get to places in Patrick's psyche that nobody else does.
Oh, totally.
And that's what's going to make him interesting as this show proceeds.
Absolutely. I am a little concerned that now that the show's established that it can spend an entire episode with one of its main characters, that we may end up getting an Augustin episode, and I may want to punch my TV.
Well, but you know what? That might actually be the thing that makes us figure out why we have Augustin along for the ride, because I think they haven't figured out what to do with him yet, and I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt that they're going to unpack something with him that's going to make him,
Not to sort of it's so weird to kind of fixate on one moment of a promo for next week. but I'm about to. For him, when he says, "I think you're something and it ain't pretty," it sort of crystallized for me that maybe it's just that Augustin has always been in love with Patrick, has always been in denial about that, and is basically sort of that results in being like a mean girl about it.
Well, yeah, the idea that Patrick is not only like has found somebody else, but has found another Hispanic guy.
Yeah.
Like I love her because she looks like you. You know, the idea that having Patrick under his roof all this time or Augustin and not doing anything, and then as soon as he leaves the fold, suddenly boom, I got a new one. I want to see where all this goes. So
that could hopefully they go there, because I think if they only stay in the level of it's like a jealousy thing, that'll be kind of boring. But if they really get into the sort of the more complicated sort of racial, ethnic politics of it, that could be really compelling.
No, absolutely. So who knows? This, it could be one of those next week on Mad Men where it's a line out of context and we don't know what we're talking about, or maybe we do. Tune in and come back and find out. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.